Michael!
Jenny White.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, all the rope gang out there. We never tell our followers good morning.
Oh, that's true. We do. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Boy's already out there. John Boy's already like, good morning. Good morning, John
He's the
Boy.
man.
He is. And he is always there. Always there. He's like a shadow. So how are you?
Good. Hanging in there.
Are you? So you have allergy trouble and I have humidity trouble.
Yeah.
Lisa's always there. Lisa says good morning this morning too. Good morning, Lisa.
I normally don't have any allergy issues, but this year, for whatever reason, I mean, I've just got hit pretty hard. I don't know what it is.
Well, we have, there's this awful stuff called rust.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. But you're like, you know, that Sting song. What's that Sting song? Golly, I can't think of it all of a sudden. But you're there. Oh, it's a good thing. So we had cedar rust on our trees this year. And I wonder if that has something to do. I mean, if you've ever seen cedar rust, it's these weird gelatinous red finger-like balls of goop that hang on the trees, and it's called rust. And our apple trees are very susceptible to, all fruit trees are very susceptible to rust. And we've had considerable amount of damage in our orchard from that so far this spring. So I'm super happy about that. So I wonder if there's not something that's going along with that. You know what I mean? I mean, if the rust
there's something definitely a little different, because I haven't been affected like this for probably 10 years at least. So something else is kind of out there that's really hitting me.
Yeah, I don't like allergies much. So we're going to do a special. The girls and I are doing a special this afternoon at 1 p.m. I need everybody out there to watch, and I'll post it. Again, it's posted up now, but I'll post it again after we get off of here. We need to talk about remember when Stitt fired Kendra and the other two board members, and then he put these three guys on, and one of them, and I don't know why I can't remember his name right now, but one of them can't read. And he's been saying, you know, well, I can't read the standards. I wasn't able to read the standards.
Like they gave him. Read, like illiterate, like literally illiterate.
Well, you have to wonder. I mean, if you've got a month to read something and you can't read them, then you kind of got to wonder, is that a you problem or is that an us problem? So anyway, there's one guy who's been a problem. Well, this other guy, Chris Vandenhand, I wrote an article about all of them after they threw off Kendra because I was so mad about that.
Yeah.
And Vandenhand, it gets tax credits. Anyway, so the girls have dug up some other things on him. Mary, our friend Mary with V1SUT, has a new article out this morning on Chris Vandenhand specifically. So you probably want to go to v1xut.com and look that up. But then she's going to be on at 1 o'clock with me, and at least Roberta Lewis, and I think Sherry Conley is also going to come on. Yes. Did I not say it right? Vandenhand? Yes, that's correct. I think I misspelled it, though. I forgot to put the capital D. Kind of like I originally misspelled Mrs. Meyers' name. I can't win. I swear I looked right at it and I had spelled Melissa wrong, and I fixed that and looked right at it and then spelled Myers wrong. So I can't win, but I got it right now.
Jenny, you're gonna have to capitulate to AI at
To
some
what?
point. You're gonna have to capitulate to AI at some point.
Well, I told you I used Grok for some research, and I did like Grok. And it saved me time. I mean, I've been a researcher for what, 20, 30 years. That was helpful. But I mean, I don't know. Anyway, but that's probably as far as I'm going to go. Good morning, political animal Dorn. He's always so much fun to have because he tells me things that I'm like, oh, no. Okay, so we have a great show today. So lots of things have been happening in the GOP, haven't they, Michael?
I hope we're turning it from the GOP actually to the GOP. That's for sure. For those of you that don't know what I said, I'm saying from the good old boys to the actual grand old party, I hope.
You almost got me to do a spit take. You wait for those things. Yes. Oh, and Jules is on this morning. Good morning, Julia. So I'm hoping that too, but there has been some really unpleasantness. And I met Melissa. I don't know if you remember this, but Trent Luce came down from Nebraska out here, out to the South Tulsa Republican Women's. And I went out there to see Trent and met Melissa. And I just thought, she just seems like such a nice lady. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to think the best about people, and I meet these people, and I like them. I mean, it's like Charity Lynch. People were saying, Charity. I'm like, I don't see it. I mean, she's always been complete.
That's kind of like me with Jenny White. Sometimes people think like I'm an apologist. I'm like, well, I just don't see it from your point of view. Jenny bad, Jenny this, Jenny. And I'm just like, well, I'm not trying to be an apologist. I'm just trying to say I can see what she's saying, makes sense to me.
I mean, there are haters, and I just don't. I mean, like I said, the one thing about getting older is that I really like is that I don't care. Hate me all you want. I've now developed my really tough, like not rhino, but rhinoceros type skin. And you can't even get a dart through that. So, all right. So, Stephanie's on this morning. She says hello. Michael, that's why some of us talk to ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Really.
Oh, I'm just going to call you JB. JB is my favorite. Well, no, because Dorn is, then Jules is, and then everybody's my favorite. Okay, so let's bring on Melissa this morning. And you know what? I think that's maybe an issue. So with that comment, let's bring on Melissa this morning. Good morning, Melissa Meyers. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, and I'm happy you are here.
Well, I am happy to be here.
Well, and I'm so glad you came on and, wanted to visit with me and Michael and everybody else who's on this morning. And, we, I'm, I'm, okay. Well, I'll just do this. So you just recently were elected the chair of the Tulsa GOP.
That is true. March the 1st was our convention, and we got voted in unanimously by 70% of the vote.
Yes, it was a pretty resounding victory. And but the previous chair actually stepped down, didn't she? She did not run again.
She was just not going to run again. That is correct.
Yes. So there have been some problems. I'm trying to figure out how, because
we're taking this very gracefully.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of people being mean.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talked about this just the other day. I don't see any purpose to being mean. It doesn't make Jesus wouldn't have been mean. So I don't want to be mean. But then on the other hand, well, and I don't mean, but I'm going to be mean. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't what the but was for. But then I have to use the word but some things have to be discussed, because if you can't discuss some of them, then it's kind of like that history thing. If you don't talk about history, if you don't learn about it, you're doomed to repeat it. So, I mean, in some ways you have to discuss these things, but I think we can do that without being mean about it, right?
Absolutely. I think just to be able to move forward, you have to have a clean house. And that's, I look at this as taking over another business, and you have to get everything in order, you have to get everything in line, everything has to be operating and functioning, otherwise we'll just not be functioning right the whole time. So we are definitely putting in some processes that were not there. We got a QuickBooks system, so all donations and money goes into one source only, so that's less muddy waters when you have one source, where the money's coming,
right,
and it just makes things cleaner. So we've already got that set up. And we're doing some other practices, just getting back to our basics of the party platform and what our vision and mission is. And so it's very important to do these things.
Well, and my new word for John Boy, JB just said, being truthful is not being hateful or dishonest, but it's taken by meanness by too many. And I do think that is part of the problem. I mean, you tell the truth and then people get all mad about it. And you're like, but that's not, if you can't tell the truth, it's just like what you just said. If we don't start out on a truthful foundation, then everything falls in. It's pretty biblical, right? You can't build your house on sand.
Absolutely. And we have to have a solid foundation. That's, and that's even knowing the previous leadership's financials. So we know where we stand coming into this. And right now there's still a lot of questions, and, we're only asking for what the state GOP rule is anything that was part of Tulsa County GOP has to stay with Tulsa County GOP. And that's all we're asking for. So right now we're not at 100% functional because there's been all of these barriers and walls and delays on something that we are allowed to ask for, because ultimately it's the people's. This is the people's house. Even at the GOP office, it's not about me. It is for the people, and it's supposed to be helping our candidates, a place for the candidates to come in. And we have to get it right and get everything looking, more pristine for sure. So then that way we can do our ultimate goal is to get candidates across the finish line and help them.
Yeah. Well, I know that I haven't donated to any GOP in I don't know how long. And it's because, I'm a pretty decent steward of my money, and I don't, and I help people when I can, but I'm not going to give it to an organization or a group and I don't know where it's going or
Correct.
what it's being used for. And it just seems like in so many of these GOPs, because I think the same problem has happened at the state level too. Nobody wants to produce the books.
It's pretty simple. And you know, this is just a streamline. Should be, hey, here's the new leadership. Here is what you need. Here you go. And I can tell you that I'm already starting a binder. So when I'm done, my whoever wins and takes my place, I will bow out gracefully. And here is a book that I've already tallied everything for you, all of our passwords and logins. This is, I want you, even though I'm not here, I want you to be even better than I want to leave it the way I want to leave it, in a better condition. And for someone to be able to jump off of that and keep going instead of, you know, starting all over, it doesn't make sense. We have an operating already office, and they've been doing this since 2015 at this office. Why do I need to start all over? That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's always seemed like to me, and I don't know, Michael, you're the math guy. It's always seemed like math is math, right? I mean, I start with a total and then I subtract or I add and I get another total and to me, it doesn't seem like we're not doing calculus here, you know, that people can't understand, or at least we shouldn't be. I mean, it's just simple addition and subtraction. I don't know why there's this reticence about transparency with money that has happened in the GOP. I'm not going to say now, because I do know, you know, Charity ran, that was one of her platforms, you know, planks in her platform, was this transparency. And I don't know. I mean, do I seem like I'm off base?
I don't think you're off base at all. I mean, I've talked to quite a few people that they've lost confidence in the county GOP, and we want to bring that back. And that includes accountability and transparency. And I even feel all the it, and we have to start operating that way to function right. But I have candidates and I too have received this, that they didn't feel that they could get help from our local Tulsa County GOP. And I personally, I mean, they did everything they could to not let me get elected. And that's not very welcoming, as a new person excited to run for an office, and then you're immediately told, I don't know why you're running. Well, why not? I mean, our Constitution is set up for everyday citizens, a mom at home, a homemaker, to all the way to a PhD. That's what our Constitution Republic is for everyday passionate citizens to stand up for their community. So that's where I was, and that's where I'm continuing to move forward with.
Well, you earned 25 points for not using the word democracy. So,
yay!
That's a 25 pointer right there. Well, and now. I do what?
I said we can just be done now. I win.
You know, I one of my friends, and I need to visit with him because I haven't talked to him in a little bit, but one of my friends was the state GOP chair for many, many years. I think maybe a decade or 2 decades, back in the 70s. And we've talked about what the GOP did in Oklahoma back then. And one of the things that I talked about when I ran for state 4 years ago was the fact that we have this huge rise in political consultants, right? It's like everybody is a political consultant. There's one on every corner. Why do we have that? And we know that there's some difficulty with some of the political consultants we have because they are really good funnels for dark money. So back in the day, the party would take donations from everyday Republicans and they would turn around and vet candidates and use it to support candidates.
That sounds simple. And that's what we need to be doing. I talked to the ethics commission just so I'm doing the right things. And I'm like, can you guide me on what this platform that we are labeled basically an unincorporated political action committee. So he said, there's a line we can either just be taking in a lot of donations and then kind of help, get the vote out, but not personally invest into a candidate. And I said, but isn't that really the goal, is for us to, we can't help in the beginning or during a runoff, but when we have our candidate, we should be helping that candidate in any way possible, even if it's a donation of say they need a TV ad or, one more push of push cards. We should be able to donate directly to the candidate so they can get across the finish line. And we haven't been doing that per the ethics commission conversation I had on Friday.
So you can, but you just haven't been.
Correct. Yes. We've been doing it indirectly, which I think we need to change that. And if we have, like right now, Kevin Norwood just won his seat. Beverly Atterbury, I already put it out. Hey, we're going to need door knockers and people to do letters and doing phone calls. But beyond that, I need to ask both of them, hey, what's one thing that we could be able to invest in you personally? But the other way we can do it is also through the Oklahoma GOP. So we can actually directly give money to the Oklahoma GOP. Then they will file the ethics reports, but we can individually say this is for this X candidate. And so we have a couple of ways to do it, and we need to start doing that. I mean, right now we have a Democratic mayor at the city of Tulsa, and right now the city council, the decisions that they're making, and we even know we have Republicans that are supposed to be there being our voice, and they're just agreeing and not standing up for the platform and the party platform and the values. So we need to get some more strong conservative Republicans in the city council. Plus we need to start working really hard for our next mayor race to get us a great Republican mayor in that seat. Because right now we need to get back to bipartisan elections at the city of Tulsa as well. So that's going to be a priority for us at Tulsa County. Because right now it's caused a major problem. We didn't have a Republican candidate until Brent Van Norman came into play. And then we didn't even help him until 2 weeks before the first election. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball on that. And we have been. And that's a comment that people have told me. They were like, we're reactive instead of proactive. Yeah. We're not like, hey, we need to start in 6 months. Here's what a race is happening. Here's in 9 months. This is a race that's happening. We need to start collecting money to be prepared for those things, to get the word out beforehand. And then that also goes into how effective we can be with our precincts. So our precinct people, which is our chairs and vice chairs, they really need to be our feet on the ground, the voices to the people. It's like little bitty churches everywhere. So I can't be everywhere, but I can get it out to the precinct chairs and vice chairs, and they should be able to get that stream out there to get people the knowledge on who we need to vote for, who we need to support, who we need to door knock for, the candidates. That is really going to be essential as we move forward at the Tulsa County GOP.
Well, real quick, Jenny.
Oh yeah.
That two things. First, Melissa's comment down there. She said, Lisa's comment said Melissa kept cutting out. I didn't necessarily hear that. I don't know if you did, Jenny.
A little bit.
But let us know again, Lisa, if she's still cutting out. But on that candidates, helping candidates, I'll just tell you, I've ran a grassroots campaign. Jenny ran a grassroots campaign. I've helped on many grassroots campaigns, and just that any kind of help we can get. I wonder what happened there.
I don't know, but
wonder-
it
I wonder
happened
if she's
before
still
she
on.
got on too. So she'll figure it out.
Yeah.
She's pretty
Well,
ingenious. She'll get back on.
Yeah, in any kind of help that a grassroots person can get is so massive to their campaign, because most of
So
these
sorry,
grassroots
I got a
people-
phone call.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
all right.
Yes. I was like, well, she's ingenious. She'll get back on. I'm not
Yeah.
worried
So
about it.
sorry, so sorry.
Well, anyway, Melissa, what I was saying is any kind of help these grassroots people can get is just monumental, because all these grassroots people have to kind of start from the beginning. They're just returning the wheel constantly. So anything that something like a county GOP or any kind of organization can help these people. Plus, if we can create a system to where we're able to bring them in, educate them, help fund them, help them get some contacts, it'll get more grassroots people activated. Hey, I don't have to completely do this by myself.
Yes, and that's how I felt. I was new, didn't know what to do. I was pointed, go to your local Tulsa County GOP office, and so I got no help, and I needed to know, or at least, hey, I want people when they come in, here's some literature, here's some, here's the top campaign companies in Tulsa County. Here's some printing companies that you can get brochures and flyers made. At least if that's their choice, what they want to use. But if we can be giving resources to somebody, then you feel less helpless. You feel like, hey, I can maybe get this done. And I want to empower people when they come in and want to run for office. And that's what we need to be doing. Or going, hey, I know you're really passionate about running for this House seat, but we have a critical seat at a XYZ school board, or we have a critical seat at City Council, and we really could use your voice. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to their choice where they want to run, and we'll support which way they want to go. But just giving them options, because they may have not thought about running for a City Council seat or school board, and we got to protect our kids. And right now we're losing our ground on the woke ideology that's happening in our schools, and so we need some strong voices at school boards all across the state for sure.
Well, I want to put a comment in here, and Dorn, you better get up with it, because John Boy's actually beating you today. In my opinion, your county GOP needs to do the research on all who are running for office. These rhinos are getting more support than those who have been Republican for years. So I wanted to bring that up because it's a great comment. And this goes back to the conversation that I had with my friend who is GOP chairman. In the 70s, there was not a rule in the GOP rule book that said that you could not help in primaries. Now let that sink in a minute, because that's where we are today. We have a rule. Obviously, it was voted in by the people who bubbled up from the bottom. I don't know what you want to say, but it was voted in that said that the GOP would not help until the general election. Well, here's the problem with that. I mean, in my personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking about me, but then I would love for you to chime in. In my personal opinion, I don't see the purpose of having a GOP in any way, shape, or form if we're not going to A, produce a platform of our beliefs, B, follow the platform of our beliefs, C, make sure that candidates understand the platform of our beliefs, D, vet candidates against the platform before we help them run, and E, get them to run in a primary, get the best candidate that we've vetted at the county level out there to run for those positions. That's what I think the purpose of the GOP should be today. But it's been, over the years, to me, it's been dumbed down and dumbed down and dumbed down and dumbed down until now we're arguing about whether or not college Republicans should have more votes. And then the rest of the population and having a huge amount of drama and anger over this issue, which has nothing to do with getting good people elected.
Sure, you're correct, and I think we've, like you said, we've watered down the platform so much, or we have not stood up for the party platform and held our elected officials accountable to that. I actually had a conversation with that yesterday, but that's our job as the citizens. They work for us, and we need to remind them of that. And I think to be a voice at the GOP, to also go arm in arm with our citizens as well and go, hey, you're citizens. I'm standing up with the citizens, and you're not doing or voting at the Capitol the way you say you're a Republican, and you have an R behind your name, and we need to redirect. And that should be, I don't think necessarily a fear if you're an elected official, but there should be a, maybe when someone calls, like when I call Chris Banning a lot, and he answers my phone, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? And I've told him, I said, I want to have open dialogue, and let's talk about things. I'm not coming to you aggressively. Why did you vote that way? But hey, you have citizens that you have to uphold the Constitution to, and we're going to hold you accountable to your voting record. And he goes, I welcome that. So we need to have that at the Capitol across the board with our Republican elected officials for sure.
Well, let me ask this. We're generally a two-party system, and I'm frankly not a fan of that, but that's just me. But we're essentially a two-party system. We do have libertarian and independents, but then they literally don't. I mean, there's not a whole lot either one of those parties, and they're not even independents aren't even really a party. They're just a classification if you don't want to fit in either one of the other boxes. And so many Republicans that I know who, it's kind of a joke. My husband says, I feel like I'm a rhino now because we're Republicans in name. You know, we're trying to follow the platform. You know, we're trying to feel like we have a basis for believing the way we do, or saying that we believe the way we do, or standing up for how we believe. And I'm going to throw this in really fast because I think this is going to help explain my perspective. Lisa says every church and nonprofit has a platform statement and our beliefs page and or a mission statement. Our political parties need to remember they have one too. Amen. And actually follow that. And you know, that's an excellent point that she makes. Churches and nonprofits have a mission statement. I mean, at this point, the GOP is kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Just you be you. Well, how does that work? You know, I mean,
you're correct. I know for me, I've made this statement over and over. If we don't, you know, it goes back to the song, if you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything. And we have to stand for something and draw the line and go, this is where we stand. And you know what? I had a conversation and they're, you know, well, it's not welcoming. And it's not, are you an American? Yes. Do you believe in our Constitution? Yes. Do you believe in liberty, fighting for freedom and liberty and what's in our belief platform? Majority of it. Yes. Then let's go. Let's get some candidates across the finish line and get some conservative values back in. And why can't we agree on that?
Well, because I think, and here was the problem that I always bumped up against when I was involved in the party. Well, the platform is 47 pages long. And are you going to really pick out? I mean, what parts of those are you really wanting me to follow? Okay, well, I agree. The state platform, I mean, honestly, if I were queen of the world, I would just burn the thing in a trash can and go, let's put together 10 statements.
Yes,
10, because I think 10 is probably reasonable, but 5 is probably even better. I don't know, yeah. Because if like you said a second ago, personal liberty, protecting personal liberty is one of our values, then it kind of solves a lot of the social problems other than abortion.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you want to dress up like a girl and you've got a beard, do you? You know, I'm going to, fight for your personal liberty to wear a dress. I mean, it solves that problem. But then on the other hand, I want the personal liberty not have to pay the government for my property, to pay rent to the government for my property. My personal liberty is the gains of my industry, right? So that one statement covers a whole lot of people, but we can't even say, yes, the one of the main platforms that are the GOP is that we are going to protect personal liberty.
Yeah, that should be number one at every single statement, no matter what.
Yeah, ours is 19 pages on ours, but there is I know, yes. But there is a streamline one pager that we believe in God, we believe in freedom, we believe in the Constitution. Yeah. That should bring us all together that are Republicans, no matter what. And then we're getting in the weeds on the 5% of things, or even less than that. And we're arguing, and then we're fighting amongst each other and shooting each other within the own thing and killing our own off. And, we've got to get together on the most and majority of things instead of the minority of things. And, I have worked over the years with all kinds of people. And do we agree all the time? No. But when I worked at a restaurant, even if we didn't agree for the day or whatever, we got the common goal was to take care of the people that came into the restaurant, and we got it done. And that's the same thing in healthcare. You may not agree with your people that you work with, but at the end of the day, we got to take care of the patients that come into that building. So I think this is simple, the same thing. Let's get past our grievances, get past what we assume we know about someone and go, okay, we need to get together and get candidates vetted, let them know our party platform, and help them succeed in a race.
There's been and I want to put this one into, because to me, that's a huge, that's like number 2 after personal liberty is free markets, and nobody fights for those anymore. And if you really sit down and you look at it, I think, and I don't know, Michael, you'll have to help me out here. I think the 2 biggest things that should separate Republicans from Democrats, the 2 things are, I'm not going to steal your money to redistribute it to other people, which is part of the free market principle, right? The government doesn't step in and give you money. We don't do tax credits. You do your business, and if you do well, you grow. If you don't, you don't. That's the free market. And then the second thing is personal liberty, because Democrats really don't believe in personal liberty. They tend to believe in group everything. What's good for the group is good for everybody. Mm-hmm. Well, Republicans should not believe that. Republicans should believe in individual liberty. Correct. I'm not Melissa Meyers, I'm not Michael Grande, I'm Jenny White, and I have personal autonomy over my person, and you can't force me to wear a mask or take a vaccine or those kinds of things. Those 2 things should separate us immediately from the Democrat Party. But you have a bunch of the people who have ours by their names who have done nothing but give away our money in tax credits this session alone, right? And who have done things like impose extra taxes or licensing fees or this, or that's the Democrats. If we could focus on just those 2 things, Melissa, don't you think we would probably see an entirely different state?
Absolutely. If we can just get it together on a couple of things, we would totally change this thing. And we are so caught up in the emotional, or you offended me, or I'm offended. And that's even happening in our Republican Party. And it's like, if we just put down our, what I would say, self and go, okay, let's get past it. Let's arm in arm and let's go and find the things that we can connect on. We could be changing this whole thing. We have a huge opportunity, Oklahoma, Tulsa County, Tulsa, to really change this thing. And, you know, when I was running for county commissioner, you know, I made it through the first round and lost the runoff. But I was talking to my dad because I started, you know, am I a Republican? Am I really a Republican? Because even my own party was against me, you know. And my dad and I talked, and he's a wealth of knowledge, but he goes, Melissa, we have to stand up for the Republican Party because the Republican Party is keeping our nation from going to communism and socialism and all of those things. So my dad was like, we have to stand up for the Republican Party platform.
But see, I don't even know that that's true anymore, Melissa, because
I
you
know.
look at what they're doing at the federal level. They
know.
believe that surveillance is okay.
Mhm.
They believe turning our kids into widgets to educate them for jobs is okay, which negates personal liberty. You're right. And free enterprise. You've busted those two right there with that. And I think one of the things that you know, I would love to see the new people who have come into the GOP this season do is really articulate what those two things mean, because I don't think people put 2 and 2 together to get 4 on that. Like I just explained, you know, if you're for personal liberty, that means you don't want somebody forcing a mask or a shot on you or telling you how to run your business or taking your money and giving it to somebody else. And I don't think we do a good enough job of, hold on, I've got a mosquito that is like the size of a pterodactyl who is flying around me. And and he does not, got him. Okay. And seriously, the size of a pterodactyl, like little mini pterodactyl, is huge.
Well,
and I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael.
In the vein of that, Jenny, I mean, I think probably where we've gone is all these Republicans by name, you know, they basically think they work for the government in one way or another. They don't work for the people anymore. And, you know, you were talking free market, and I just want to expand on that just a little bit. So in my opinion, when we talk about free market, what I see is free market equals competition. And that competition is in direct competition with the government is who that competition is in. And as you've seen over the last, 10, 20 years, and especially even over the last 5, 10 years, you see a massive consolidation of all the little guys, being bought up or taken out of business or what. And you don't see anyone talking about that other than these governors talking about workforce, and workforce going into more of that government play again. So, I mean, there again, that's, in my opinion, a grassroots guy is going to protect a grassroots businessman, a grassroots family, a grassroots church, all the way across the board. And these Republicans now, because they're able to primary us, because we can't get all that support in the beginning, they go in and they're just another government employee, and we're the competition. That's how I see that.
Well, that's an example also with what, Brian Logan got a huge win last night.
Yeah.
His previous election, $350,000 was coming in from dark money to go against him for his Republican opponent. So that says a lot. And Brian Logan, I mean, he worked his tail off. And you know what? Paulie did a fantastic job. There has been many Republican groups, even Tulsa County groups, that have been really helping Brian to get out to the door knocking in very rural areas that you're a little scared where you're going. But this is proof that if the citizens can get together and really work together, look what we can achieve. I mean, same thing with Jim Shaw, similar. All that dark money was coming in, even for another Republican candidate, Wallace. And guess what? That whole county came together and got Jim Shaw across the finish line. I mean, it's powerful. I thought that was so cool. And then I went out to the Creek County fairgrounds. This was about 6-8 months ago. They were fighting the corridor. There was, I can tell you, 1,000 plus people there in Creek County. And I was like, what is happening? This fueled me more to see so many people. They weren't fighting. They were not arguing. It was very, it was just peaceful, but they all stood up together, and how powerful that was. I mean, we need more of that for sure.
Well, and that takes me back to something that you said a minute ago that I want to drill down into a little bit. It has appeared to me for a number of years, and I got into the Republican Party, I believe it was 2010. It may have been earlier, but somewhere around in there. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. And that is the name calling and the drama. And I really, and again, this is not Melissa Meyers saying this. This is Jenny White saying it. It's not Michael McGroundy saying it either. So if you want to take a shot at me, I'm right here. I'll meet you in a parking lot. I don't care. I'm old. I personally feel like the Republican Party in Oklahoma has been infiltrated by people to just create chaos.
Definitely.
And I think some of these people, even when I talk to them or listen to them talk, it's all about emotion. And really, another thing that separated or did used to separate Democrats from Republicans were, because Democrats were always social program people, right? And social programs, you cannot disconnect the emotional from the social. You can't, because it always works like this. Oh, but he's homeless, and I feel so, and well, she gets, she's an alcoholic, and it's all this emotion that gets, and nobody ever, then we were supposed to be the group that came along and went, well, yes, he's homeless. This is a person that needs to have some mental health care. We need to stop dumping mental health patients on the sidewalk and put them back in group homes like they used to have. Oh, but that's, you can't do that. And then they don't. And we start screaming and crying again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I'm just going to attack this one head on. That whole nonsense about the college Republicans and I'll be the first one to tell you, I was not at the convention, so I did not see this firsthand. I was just witnessing the conversations that were being had on the Facebook, but it was all such drama. It was absolutely driving me batty, shrieking, well, they can't be. Okay, well, how? Well, but they can't be. You're not answering my question. How? Well, I just have it. That's crazy. That's just not. I mean, stop with the shrieking and carrying on. I mean, one person that I've known for a very, very long time actually basically told me, because I said, look, this is the same resolution that's come up at conventions for years. I mean, I know that for a fact, because I've seen it come up for years. And I said, this is the same resolution that's come up for years. It just got passed this time. What difference does it make? This is nothing new. And I just got shrieked at, basically. And there were no facts involved. There was just a lot of emotion. And I personally feel like as soon as we start down that road of I can't explain myself, I just have the feels, then we need to move to a different party. Then this isn't our party. It's time for us to go find some. You can be independent, but we're not the party of feels. We should be the party of thoughtfulness, of research, of forethought, of all of these things that produce long-range outcomes that are good for people, because emotion is not. I mean, you look in the Bible, how many times did Jesus say, the heart is evil? Don't count on the heart. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't think about what you feel. And yet we're going right down that same road.
Yeah, at convention, when that topic came up, kids, young Republicans, college Republicans, they outnumbered the very group that was sitting in a section, and they're for this because they want more participation in precincts. And I unpacked it with Charity Lynch, and I'm one of those that try to build a bridge instead of totally down. And I talked to Connor quite a few times in the last month and go, hey, we have to go to the vote of the people, and the vote of the people say that we want you to participate in your precincts, and we need to find a way. And realistically, a third party, that's what the young Republicans and college Republicans are, is a third party. They need to get into their precincts. And it probably should have never happened, even for the 30 years they've been in there, because they have had their own area pretty much. And we want you to be with us instead of this separation and divide here. That was what the resounding vote was. Not that we want less participation. We want more participation. We want you to come and be with, I'm 42 years old. I'm not a young Republican. And that's also a clarification that needs to happen. A young Republican is not me, a 42-year-old person. I would love to identify as that. But I'm saying,
so would I.
I've been voting since I was 18. So there has to be this, once you hit like 25, but still you should have already been participating in your local precincts at that point. So, but we're putting 40-year-olds in the young Republican category, and then they have their own third party. That doesn't make any sense. So I see all of the, but it's not emotional. This isn't about hurting someone's feelings. It is just getting back to the basics of our party. And it's pretty simple. So let's get together. So I've already talked to Connor, and we already kind of have a plan. And I said, you stirring the pot more and making these statements, bold statements, is not helping. It's making it worse. But we're not disenfranchising you. That's not what's happening whatsoever. So we want you to be participating. So that's what he needs to start. Hey, we need to participate. We need to participate. And we're not upset and we're not mad, but that's not what's happening. And it's stirring more emotion and more anger. And it's not good.
Well, and that's another thing that bothers me, because the Democrats are the party of groups, right? You know, I'm a Latina, I'm a Latino, I'm a Black person, I'm an Asian, I'm a Jewish person. I mean, they're the
Don't forget all their sexuality, Jenny. Don't forget all the sexuality classifications.
I wasn't even going to go there, but you're exactly right. It's just this party of groups. And the reason why Marxists love to delineate groups is because they're extremely easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
Hey, Blacks, did you hear what the Latinos said about you? Hey, gay people, did you hear what the Latinos said about you? And then it just becomes this, well, I'm mad at them because they're mad at me. But if you're a group together, that's what the whole United States was supposed to be, right? Bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. We were all supposed to melt. We were supposed to be Italian and Irish and Scottish and whatever, and come together, African, and come together. But when we got here, we weren't Irish or Scottish or African or whatever anymore. We were what? Americans. We were one group together under one flag, believing in one thing, really, which was just freedom, right? The freedom to be who we wanted to be, whether we were, it didn't matter what religion we had. It didn't matter what we looked like on the outside. We could all come together under this flag and go, hey, how are you? Right? I mean, that didn't make us have to have the same exact thoughts about everything, but it made us a homogeneous group that at least were able to come together on one grander idea. And you can't fight each other when you're coming together under one grander idea. And I think people have got to start looking at and finding and repudiating the Marxist creep that's into everything. If you want to be in a separate group, you need to be a Democrat. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So if you want to be a separate group, bye-bye. You can do you be you, but just don't be it here. You go to the other part, go to another party. And I think if we would just stop every time we see something that's not Republican, doesn't have Republican values or ideals attached to it, we just call it out and say, no. We're not groups here.
Correct. Let's get back to the basics of this. And I think we're just losing ground because, we need to hone in on, this is our core. This is what we stand for. This is where we are. And we are not excluding you, but come on, let's go. Do you believe in freedom? Let's go. But the notion is that we have to conform. The Bible says that we are not to conform to the ways of this world.
Amen.
So conforming and watering down the gospel is, we're in trouble. And so we get back to honing it back to the basics. And that's as welcoming as you can get. But I love people, and I love all people, but I'm just me, and I'm pretty frank, and I tell it how it is. And I just want to hold up character and honesty and integrity. And that's sometimes you have to do that to people that you even love and you do care about. And they just may not see there's something going on.
But I'm gonna build out on what you said. If you were going to tell me that you love me, but then you see me doing something wrong or non-biblical or bad for me and you don't say anything, don't tell me you love me.
Correct. Yeah. If there's a fire in a building, are you going to tell somebody your house is on fire? I think we should.
Hey, we don't talk about fire on this program.
Oh, I'm okay. I'll now.
That's a trigger word. Fire is a trigger word.
I won't say fire. No fire. Sorry.
I'm sorry. You got to laugh about stuff. I mean, seriously. But I mean, you're 100% right. I guess my issue is I listen to you talk and we have these talks and I talk with Charity. And I find a whole lot more in common with you than people who want to screech about things or put themselves into little groups or take pot shots at one another. Because don't forget, that's the greatest part about having a little group is you can pot shot each other, right? You stand in one group and throw rocks at the other one. And I don't find it, helpful on any level.
Oh, I agree. And that's why it's been so hard honing back to the Tulsa County GOP. This isn't about coming in like a wrecking ball and hate people. But when I see something and not say something, I'm conforming and putting it underneath the rug. And I'm just as guilty if I allow that to continue to happen. And I can't sleep at night knowing that I allowed something to continue. And it also is like a sore. It's a fester and it continues to fester. If you never take care of the sore, then it never can be healed. And I really want to bring some healing back because there's so many fractions right now within, our Republican Party. And, people get so upset. Well, then I'm just going to go make my own, or I'm going to go make another club. Or no, we don't need more clubs. We need more unity. And I can get past my one grievance towards you or the assumption that you did something, because the greater thing is the American people and Tulsans and Tulsa County GOP citizens. That's what should be the sounding bell or the light, is that we're ultimately for one thing, is to help the citizens. And I think we're just so in, I want to be right. I want to be right. And I don't want to be right. I just want to do the right thing and I'm striving for righteousness and in all things I'm doing. And I mean, it's never going to be perfect. I'm not striving for perfection, because by all means, I am not perfect. And none of us are. We all fall short. So,
how do you know I'm perfect?
come on.
I always used to do that to my kids. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm perfect. What's your problem? Well, let's get to we've got a bunch of comments stacked up, and there may be some questions for you. So but I wanted us to have that discussion. I thought it was really helpful. You know, and I
wanted to make a comment on that last thing Melissa just said about the unity of, this whole deal. And you said earlier, Jenny, what are the Democrats? They're a group, they're a divided group of all this stuff. So we're fractured on our side. So what are we doing? We're literally just playing right into their playbook of having all these little fractured splinters, saying, I want it this way, I want it that way, instead of us, just coming together as grassroots, liberty loving, freedom protecting people in general. They're winning. Their playbook that they have is winning at the end of the day, every single day.
Well, and part of the reason why I identify as a Republican is because I believe this is right. I believe if you follow Republican principles, free market, personal responsibility, personal liberty, all of those things that we talked about before, I feel like if you follow those 5 big tenets, you win. It's better for you. It creates more prosperity. So I don't want to be a Democrat. I'm not interested in that. I want to be a Republican for those reasons. And because they work, because we know for a fact that Marxists and Democrat principles, liberal principles don't work. We've seen oh my gosh, look at China. We could go over so many countries and show how it just ends up in nothing but death and destruction. So we know just historically that this really is the right side, however odd, that is. And I think that if you, did my train run the track? It may have.
Well,
I know what I was going to say. And so I think just like with churches, right? Just like with churches that had a really good biblical message, the Marxists got liberal people in there in those teaching colleges, the Bible colleges, to just tweak the message a little bit. So it went away from the word and it got a little more watered down and a little more watered down. That's what we've done with the Republican Party. And the Marxists want this because they know if they can destroy us, they win easily. They're going to continue to try, but if we could finally quit being a bunch of Democrats saying we're Republicans, and we could actually follow the Republican principles that that has worked for the party that the party started out as, we would handily beat these people like with a club. It would absolutely. So you have to stop and think, why is all of this happening now? Well, it's to ruin this party.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the people who are buying into it. Well, I just feel terrible for the college Republicans. Well, these charity lunches this and charity lunches that. And I just love the warrior, and I'm just going to do because he's great. And I'm blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff is meant to create dissension inside the party to make it fall in, to make us fight each other. And the best thing we can possibly do is go, not listening to that. La, 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 not listening to that, and move forward. That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah, I've had numerous times. I'm like, okay, you're telling me something. Have you physically yourself talked to the person you're talking about right now? Well, I said, until you talk to the other person, I don't want to hear what you say. So So I've had to say that, because that's really, we're playing telephone. And I told Jenny that yesterday. I said, that's what we're doing, is somebody said. No, we need to get back to the source. But in all of that, is it really come back to our mission and vision of what the Republican Party is? No, we're just stirring up trouble and stirring the pot and adding more fuel to the fire, instead of, we should be the peacekeepers and show people the way to how to handle these things. And, you know, I'm having to do that. Hey, let's not talk about that. Hey, you're just adding fuel to the fire. And I think that people are surprised by that, because I'm like, I don't like gossip. I don't like drama. Until I hear it from the horse's mouth, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna taking that as a grain of salt. So we do have some exciting things happening though.
Good.
So we have had our executive committee meeting, and it was fantastic. Everyone was very supportive and excited to be there. We had almost 40 people there. Every single person that we have chosen has said yes. And I was like, oh, we're going to need more people, or we're going to need more seats, because everyone said yes. So that's been fantastic. We talked about strategy, what our next things we're going to be doing for the Tulsa County GOP. We are going to have a booth with the Republican Party of South Tulsa United. We are going to start being more present in a lot of these functions.
Good.
Missed Rooster Days. That just didn't happen with state convention and, trying to get our executive committee done. So we're going to do the Jinx food truck on March the 31st. Just being a presence. Hey, this is Tulsa County GOP. We would love for you to participate, but we also need to start working together. So I want to start working with other Republican groups. Let's work together, and let's do multiple Republican groups if we can. We've already signed up for the state fair in September. So I talked to Charity Lynch and Wayne, and I said, why don't you guys come and participate with us as the state and represent? Why can't we do that? And she goes, I would love to do that. I said, if you want to come a couple nights or during the day and just let's be together, let's do it. And I've talked to a couple of Republican Party groups. Let's help each other at the state fair. So we have also our state committee is meeting at the end of the month as well to vote our new national committee woman. So a lot of
That's right.
that is happening. We are going to have county committee that is coming up. So I will be sending out an invite for county committee with our precinct chairs and vice chairs, so we can start strategizing at a county level. And, we have bipartisan elections that we need to fight for city of Tulsa. So that's going to be a topic of discussion at county. So we have a lot of events coming up, and we're excited to be out there and hugging on people and loving on people. That's really what this is, it's community. It's loving on people, to bring them in and go, hey, are you registered to vote? Hey, let me show you how to do that. If you have questions about the Republican Party, that's what we need to explain that to them. And so there's a lot of exciting things happening. And the office is looking great. You guys need to come by anytime. We have coffee and snacks, and we want it to be a homey place for people to feel like they can come and hang out and sit down and have a cup of coffee. So.
Well, that's awesome. And teaching people Republican principles. John Boy says, how many will not even fill out the Republican platform? A bunch. One even said they won't, because they won't be held accountable if they go against, they don't want to be held accountable if they go against the platform. And, like we've talked about, therein is our biggest problem. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Lisa said, oh, it should absolutely be a fear. They should fear being kicked out when they do wrong. And otherwise, it's a social club.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of other social clubs out there. We're either standing for Republican principles or we're a social club. You can be both, but I mean, you have to at least stand on the principles first. Elected officials can't state their missions without looking. Michael, who said that? Julia.
Yeah.
God needed only 10. I guess the people who, who really made a difference. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet. It seems like it's a pretty simple thing to me. It's easy to spend other people's money until you run out of it. Well, I mean, that was what 100% correct, Jenny. Thank you. I don't know what I said, but I'm going to take it that everything I say is 100% correct now. Just kidding, obviously. Yeah. Margaret Thatcher said, it's easy to spend other people's money until you run out of it. So something like that. I don't remember. Or taking your money and using it against you. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Like, a perfect example is OSSBA, the Oklahoma State School Boards Association, who actually gets money from schools for membership. Who pays schools? They don't have their own. They don't have a tree that they go pull money off of. We all pay for public schools, and they get dues from public schools to then fight parents and what parents want to do. So it's exactly the worst thing that could happen, and something that I know the founders are just like, this is what we knew was going to happen. We were pretty sure this was going to happen. Bit by bit, inch by inch, adults are being convinced that socialism and communism are good things to strive for instead of against. And I agree with you, Lisa. It's that long march through the institutions, and we're coming to the end of that.
I want to make comment on that too, and on that
Sure.
that comment before. I guarantee you, Jenny, because I've met these people face to face when I ran my school board campaign. Yeah. I guarantee you the hardcore Marxist, socialist people in our society are registered Republicans.
Yeah.
They are registered Republicans, and and on top of that, there's a good majority of them that either work or affiliated with these public schools in one way or another.
Yeah.
I agree. I really feel like, what's the better way to kill something is but within. And I feel that there is some Trojan horses that are infiltrating on purpose for the higher call, basically, to break us all apart. So if they can start infiltrating a little, and it's not even a big one, it's small things. They find little cracks and crannies, and it's a slow fade over time. And I think that's what we're seeing. And there's consequences to that. Since we did not stand, I go to city elders, and I love what Jesse talks about holding the line, or we need to govern the gates. And we've gone to sleep at the gate, and we're the watchmen and the watchers. Yeah. We've gone to sleep, and now we're having to deal with the consequences of not standing up for things when we had the opportunity in history to stand up for those things. That's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now.
Well, Melissa, I would say not only have we gone to sleep, and I'll preface this coming from maybe the Christian perspective or the Christian community. Not only have we gone to sleep and let the government do the job that the church used to do across the board, that to me, that is the major deal, is we've let the government come in and take our place as being the ones to care for these people, take these people in, solve all these little problems in our society that need to be solved by us, by the church, by the Christian community, by that larger group of good-hearted, good-intentioned, doing right people.
You are totally correct on that. That was something over the last few months that, when we need to register people to vote, we're not even allowed. I talked to our pastor and was like, hey, can we just have a table? Nothing Republican, nothing Democrat, just some registration forms, get people registered to vote, or give them information about upcoming elections. And that was not allowed. And we've got to that's a place that you can hit maybe 1,000 people in one Sunday to get the voice of what's going, or educate people about what's going on in our communities, is at the church. That's what our pastors are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be shepherding their sheep and their flock and going, hey, here's the information. Now go make a decision and go vote and get to the voters box on that.
Well, we've done.
Well, I want to give one more quick example of that church deal, Jenny. So, you know, when I ran for school board, that's when all the book deal was literally at the height of all of it. So we had parents, Melissa, that read every single one of those books, you know, compiled book reports. We picked out just a group of maybe 6 or 7 of the worst book reports on those books, compiled them into, you know, like a 6 or 7 page deal with a handwritten note from the moms that read those books.
Mhm.
And I got all those. I went to every single church and dropped, you know, first I want to have a meeting with the pastor. If I get a meeting, I did. I dropped off that and I said, I want to have a meeting with the pastor of the church about this content here. Guess who called me? Not well, there was one, Paul Blair, obviously. No one else called back. No one else stood up in one single church in Edmond to just even have a conversation about what was happening with these library books in the schools.
And I'm saying key to get our pastors and our church involved, because right now there's a community of other churches that are super loud right now that were just on the TV that are, I mean, they're being very loud. Where's our Christian conservative pastors coming against that? And they're not. And we're still allowing all of this to happen. And I have a pastor close by here. He said the 3 B's that a lot of pastors are worried about is butts, buildings, and budgets. And we're forgetting there is critical things that our pastors and our congregations should be definitely actively involved in to hold the line.
Well, and I also think too, you know, when you see this stuff online, you really have to repudiate it. And I don't mean don't be ugly. I mean, there was somebody who did a video who was calling us names, you know, people who, you know, and I don't see that that's helpful, and it's offensive to me. I mean, because it and what I believe is, if all you have is to call me a name, you have no argument. You have no argument. And therefore, if you're going to call me a name and you're going to put me in a group and then demonize me, it's because you don't have an argument for what I'm going to say. So just because you're wrong doesn't mean I get called a name. I mean, and I definitely think the way to do that is to repudiate that and say, okay, then what's your argument? Don't call me a name, but give me your argument. And it's kind of like what I was doing with so many of these people, you know, online with this college Republican kerfuffle. Okay, explain to me how, why, tell me what's good. I mean, just trying to get the facts, and you can't get the facts. And John Boy said supply and demand is no longer and can't happen due to government handouts. And I know you're going to agree with that, Michael, for sure.
Well, and Jenny, look at the in depth. We've talked about how the government, on top of that, picks winners and losers
Right.
in business every single day. And that's all the way down to your local, you know, your local city council, you know, picking who's going to get to go where.
Right. Grassroots will prevail, and they're worried. And I honestly, Dorn, I do think that's part of the problem. I think they've seen this groundswell happen. They know what happened with some of these campaigns, like McCourtney's, you know, Jonathan Wingard beat, you know, the pro tem elect, you know, I mean, so many of these places are falling because a few people who are active and want to do something are making a difference, and it's scaring them. And it's better to call them a name, you know, call us a name than it is to get behind us. They don't necessarily want that. People contribute their own money to whatever they choose. They should not, however, take the money and give it away. I loved this one. I saw this one. Lisa says her 20-year-old says emotion is their main platform. And I tend to agree with that, because emotions are so easily manipulated. Thoughts are not. Critical thinking is the death knell of emotion. And so it's so much easier to cry, scream, and complain and have to have your fuzzy blanket than it is to think something out. Kimberly says exactly 100%. We need the youth involved with the local GOP, not separate. The GOP should be the government of the people, not the government of the pushovers or the pushers of the government. which I think is what we've been for a long time. So I totally see your perspective there. Just another way the infiltration happened a few years back by even starting a college and young Republican groups for the county GOP are not called a group. I agree with that one too. Connor says everyone needs to stop discussing the rule change. It's over. Okay, FCR has not released a statement since the convention. Fair enough. Fair enough, Connor. But I also think too, and I hope you'll go with me on this, that it is instructive to talk about what has happened. History instructs the present. And I don't think there's anything wrong with discussing history, and we're not name calling or anything like that. But I think we need to make sure that people understand what the argument was. And that's all we're trying to do here. How have we become so feeble-minded, too sensitive to shallow issues that fuel the primal and not the principled? Ooh, that is it. Shallow issues that fuel the primal and not the principled, because I do think the primal is almost antithetical to principle, right? Because how can you be principled? How can you think rationally if
yeah, that's that emotion versus critical thinking, right there. I mean, primal is emotion. I mean, you're basically just trying to survive at all costs.
Yeah, I think Roger, great comment. My mother's neighbors in New York were all straight off the boat, Irish, Italian, Jewish, all in the same Brooklyn. There was prejudice, but at least it was out in the open and everybody got along. Their block parties were legendary. Well, my family was Irish. I can't tell you the names that we were called, and the Irish were, and people get really mad about this, but this is absolute fact. The Irish, when they came over originally in, what was it, the 30s, were lower than Black people. Black people were above Irish people.
And it's a lot of Italians too, because my grandfather came over. Yeah.
We were at the very bottom of the pecking order.
Yeah.
I love
yeah, 100%.
100%.
I feel sometimes that way about my couple of my children, but America, your house is on fire for sure. Grade school playground mentality for sure. So toe the party line is what I'm hearing.
But here's the other thing on the college Republicans. Hi, Connor. How can anyone, if we're reacting in a way as the adults per se, how are the younger generation going to learn the right ways to communicate, right, if we're not teaching them how to do it and we're not investing in them? Hey, this is not how you handle a situation. Let's discuss it instead of yelling and screaming and infighting and belly aching per se. We got to show them how to do things right.
Well, and you know, and I think mentoring is an important thing. But I mean, it's all across ages. Yes. Melissa, you know, I mean, I'm mentored by people who are older than me, you know, so, and I'm ancient according to my children. I wanted to get back to laugh out loud. So toe the party line is what I'm hearing. And I don't know that that's necessarily, you know, what we're saying, but again, principles are important, and you either have them.
Has the party line been clearly defined? I mean, if we've got at the state level, if we've got 46 pages of rules in administrative state, basically, I mean, do we have a clear and defined party line? I mean, in my opinion, Jenny, I don't think so.
Well, you know, it's funny, Melissa, you talked about a one pager, and Oklahoma County GOP has a one pager. It's up on their website. And I think even that could be whittled down, but still in all, if you can't get on that one page, there are other options.
And think about, Jenny, when you go back to like the mission statement type of, you know, continuation of that, a mission statement isn't 46 pages. A mission statement most of the time isn't even a full page. It's like maybe
a paragraph.
Yeah, it's like maybe a paragraph, and it's got 2 or 3 key things in there and that's kind of it.
No, 100%. Those who claim to be Republican have to be held to the platform. Otherwise, it's just insanity. I mean, and Julia got it. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. That's correct. Chamber of Commerce is full of Republicans. And that was what we were talking about on the workforce show the other day that we did, is we've allowed through the principle of free enterprise. The principle of free enterprise that the party was once so staunchly for has become bastardized to be that business is the pinnacle of everything.
Yeah.
So we're all subservient to business, and
not just business, big business, Jenny, corporate business, the corporate business ladder.
And it's been completely bastardized. And there are people who legitimately will say, well, that's free enterprise. No, it's not. We have antitrust laws in this country because of Walmart and Sam's and AT&T, but we don't follow them anymore. And the antitrust laws were supposed to protect small businesses because that's what really America was made up of. And that was where you could come to America and make your livelihood, was by going, you know what, I can do that better than my neighbor can. I'm going to open up a storefront and I'll do it. And that's what that was all about. And now it's not. Now it's the chamber of, what did I call it the other day? Chamber of Communism. It's the Chamber of Communism who has come out and made this all about the pinnacle of everything, which is just business and workforce. And you need to make sure that your kid has a job. No, I need to make sure my kid can read and do math and think for himself. I don't need my kid to have a job until we get that part down.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, did you hear real quick before you go to another comment? You know, when Stitt made that announcement over the ammunition plant that's coming in, did you see that?
No.
A couple days ago? Yeah, so there's a big ammunition plant that's chosen Oklahoma to come in. I think they're coming in on somewhere in Oklahoma City. But anyway, in his speech, he was, he's pumping Oklahoma and this and that. But he mentioned, the workforce is what we've created here that's brought this plant here to Oklahoma. The workforce, we've created this workforce.
But here's the thing: if the workforce is so great, why is it so hard for us as a small business? We can't keep people to get to work. They don't want to show up. We have because of COVID, people have lived so long on the government, they won't even come to work. So that's, as a small business owner, I just want to tap into that. We have a lawn and landscaping business. So we are finally, we have been very blessed. God's in control for sure. But we are here now, for almost 4 years later from COVID. We're feeling the effects of people not working during COVID. So therefore, we don't have plants. So then we don't have plants, then we can't go do landscaping. That's our main thing in our business, is landscaping and mowing and doing all things. But even when we do Christmas lights, there was a shutdown because of COVID. So now we're, it's hard for us to buy Christmas lights during Christmas light season because our distributors can't get their Christmas lights because people don't want to work. So it's just, we've caused this chaos of people not having a zeal to get out and work.
Well, but don't forget, the main problem is the government creates problems that then it thinks it can solve.
Yes. I mean, one of our guys told us, this was when it was in the height of COVID. He's like, I can sit at home and do nothing and make $400 and $500 on unemployment.
Oh yeah. John Boy says it's a real eye opener to go to your county election board and start pulling cards on Republicans who are running for office. So many change parties just day before the deadline, yet they get elected. And you and I were talking about this the other day, and we're going to have to wind it up here in a minute, but we still have election problems.
Yes, we do.
And we're going to have to continue to have that discussion. And Julia points out rightfully, who owned nursing homes? Who owned hospitals? Who owned orphanages? Who owned mental facilities, people for with mental disabilities, churches.
And how many of those services did they render for free also during all those times, which was quite a bit. They rendered quite a bit of services for free. Or
There's a
used to.
place.
They don't now, but
Well,
used
it's
to.
not for free. I mean, it was because people donated to
Yeah.
their churches and created that, so because I hate the word free because nothing ever is, but there's a place in Guthrie and I don't know what's happened to it. He had a great business model. There was an orphanage in Guthrie that had been run by, I believe it was the Baptist church. And it was started in the 20s, and it's a beautiful building because it has that, kind of Art Deco, pre-1930s, building. It was beautiful. And he had turned it into kind of a boutique hotel. And then he had a pizza kitchen that he'd staffed where you could go get pizza in a bar and a chef that he'd brought in. So you could stay there and get a really nice meal, which you can't do in a motel anymore. Like when I was a kid, you could. Howard Johnson's. Yeah. Anyway, it was great, but then COVID came along and I think it just ruined his business. But the point of the matter was, besides what his business was and what we were talking about with COVID, and because he was a perfect example of, free enterprise and the free enterprise model, but that was a Baptist children's home. That was a home for kids that the Baptist church put together, for orphans during the 20s and 30s. So it's not that this didn't happen. It absolutely did. And Margie says, yeah, 100% they're Marxists running as Republicans, which is why we have a platform. Government and regulations keep growing bigger due to Republican legislation. My mama says that they're cussing and calling you names, you won the argument, and that's factual. My kid might come up with an idea that puts the oligarchy out of business. That's true. Yeah. I mean, if we actually did something that could defeat the globalists, then they're going to come after us. They don't want to be defeated. They have a plan, People not showing up for work is why Lynn sold her business years ago. That's because of the welfare state exacerbated by COVID. I mean, it's true. If you can't find people to work for you, then how can you have a job? But then if you're going to be if you're going to be BlackRock and you own all of these companies and are basically a business oligarchy, then you get all kinds of reparations, is what I'm going to call them, from the government. You get business training disguised as education. You get workforce training disguised as education. You get tax credits. It's just totally upside down.
Yep.
Don't forget bailouts. You get to buy your own stock back. I mean, it's endless. It's endless the amount of things they get to do. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, Melissa, it's 1:30 and I'm going to try to be economic with people's time today. We've had a nice audience today. And I think it's a lot of it is in part because people are ready for a change. And, thank you for being that person to step up and do that and take that on. And thanks for coming on and talking to us today. So really appreciated hearing from you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I enjoyed this. And I like to have the, lighthearted conversations and talk about what's going on in our communities and try to problem solve those. So I really appreciate you giving me an audience, and I thank you for your rope report.
Well, and again, I mean, when you have things that come up, don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll try to get that out. Or if you've got news or need help with something, just give us a buzz.
Hey, and we're all in this together, and we got to do it together.
Or we better be.
Right. So thank you so very much.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Melissa. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Gosh, it was good to talk to her. And I think the conversation we had today was just interesting. Amy says, Melissa's been a great turnpike fighter. That's true. Their community got completely screwed with the Gilcrease. They absolutely 100% did, Amy. Absolutely. And I just drove that whole 200-foot section of turnpike. That's another thing we've got to get rid of. Oh my word. If we can't get rid of the OTA, it's a jobs program. I mean, I don't understand how people don't understand we're right back to FDR's day. I mean, they ought to, on those turnpikes, they ought to put works authority, just stamp works authority on it, because it's just a jobs program. I want to take care of my favorite little concrete people, my favorite little construction people, and better make sure they have jobs for us. So my eyes narrow to a squint. That was a great conversation. I'm so happy we had that conversation today.
Yeah. Yeah, very.
I think if we don't start having the conversations, what happens is that, well, when things get off the track, right, and you don't even make the attempt to try to get them back on, they don't come back on by them. So, I mean, that train doesn't go, hey, I'm just going to turn around and jump. I mean, it doesn't work that way. I mean, the kinetic energy, everything, once it gets going that direction, it's gone for all intents and purposes, unless it meets resistance. And if we're not going to be the resistance, then it's gone.
Well, it is up to us. I mean, we've said it multiple times. It's only up to us. No one else can save us. No one else is going to come in here and help us, save us, whatever. It literally is up to us.
There's no, I mean, yep.
But I agree, Jenny. I mean, we do need to consolidate down just a very concise set of beliefs for the Republican Party, and you either conform to that or you don't. And it's a real quick test. Do you believe in this, and this? Then okay, you're an actual Republican, grassroots Republican.
Yeah, I do agree that, I mean, because I've sat on well, that's true. Pretty much. Absolutely. Well, the Republic has to fight, but we're we are the Republican. We are the Republic. And I think in so many ways we've lost it. But
well, we have lost it in a lot of ways. I'll back you up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I look
we're
at
a sliver. We're a sliver of what the Republic used to be. As you rewind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look at some of the stuff that Trump's doing right now, and he's going. That's the problem with having a business-minded person in a position of governmental authority, because then they want to run the government like a business, and government is not a business. A business has a chairman, has a CEO that says you're fired. You're not doing this. I'm doing this. This is the way things work. That's not the way a republic works. The way a republic works is that you have a central figurehead to do the will of the people. That means the people are saying you're fired. That means the people are saying no. That means the people are the ones running the show. And what we have with Trump and what we have with Stitt are two business people sitting at the head of a government who don't understand that government isn't business and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, let me say that in just a little different way. I'm a businessman. I run several companies, and when you talk on a business scale, all business cares about is number go up. Period. Honestly, that's all business cares about. Whatever it takes to have number go up, that's all that matters. So you make decisions that, you may make the number go up by creating a safety issue in a vehicle, but it doesn't matter because numbers going up. So you're going to be able to cover what that is. there's a million scenarios of that, but I'll agree, Jenny, that's the caveat of having a businessman in there is all that matters is bottom line, and number go up is what is the determining factor of all their decisions. And that's not always the right thing to do, because number go up means you're going to have to make personal sacrifices so number can go up.
Well, and then that's sacrificing the people and the people's freedom 100%. And the people's self-determination and all of those things that are the things that we are having the result of Kevin Stitt today. Workforce. We need to make sure that we are doing the job training for business, and we'll do that at the public school because we're set up to do that. No. That's not the way it works. But when you have businessmen in there, they're going to take the cog, plug it into the machine, and make number go up.
Yeah. And they want the cog. They're building the cog from day one so that the cog is not in competition with them 10 years down the road. Yeah. And that's what we want. We want the cogs to be competition, because guess what? Those cogs, if they were educated properly, they would solve all the problems of this world in a short amount of time, because A, they would get rewarded for it, and B, that's just how it works, period. That's just how it works. You either control the cog from the beginning, or the cog is going to, be your competition later on. And they know that. They understand that. And that's why and literally in that, I need to find that deal and listen to you, or send it to you, because the guy literally says, one of the other people speaking literally says, yeah, these students, they're coming out, they're designed specifically to do whatever, whatever it is we're doing.
God bless.
They're trained specifically to come right out here. Okay, let's not train them to be entrepreneurs and create their own businesses and do their own stuff. Let's just make them go right into this, plug them right into this corporation here.
Which is globalism.
Yeah.
Which is globalism. Julia had a couple of good comments, and we're probably going to need to get off of here for today. How do we get people to turn to freedom and not government for solutions? And Julie, that's a really great question, because as we've always said on this program, it's so hard to get people to vote against their own anything. Their self-aggrandizement, their but their bottom line, their ego, whatever it is, it's super hard to get people to vote against themselves for the good of the people around them, because it's all about self today. And again, I blame this dopey, stupid thing for all the narcissism we have today. Narcissism is a huge problem that we have, because thinking about oneself doesn't allow us to think about others. And that's the big thing. And she said one more thing, which is really awfully true. A business has to be profitable. Government just steals. And that's
unless I'll put a small caveat in there, Julia. Unless the government is subsidizing that business because they want that business to be in business, like everything green.
Yeah. And John Boy says, turn the handouts off until people have to support themselves. It won't end. And that's completely right. We just have to turn the handouts off a little bit at a time and let people, get their feet under them. But, when you keep ratcheting up, I went to the grocery yesterday and I was absolutely shocked at how much the prices have gone up in just weeks. And I don't know, I heard somebody saying, well, this is Trump's tariffs. And I think the absolutely beautiful thing, and I mean this facetiously, about just any kind of power ever, is it's very easy to demonize something and make that the problem when that isn't really the problem, but you can benefit from calling it whatever you want. And that's what it is. I mean, our corporations and BlackRock, who feeds us everything almost essentially anymore, they're going to use whatever excuse they need to ratchet up those prices, because it's all about putting us in the poorhouse, getting rid of that middle class. We can't have a middle class. That doesn't work for globalism. We have to have the haves and the have-nots. It's all about, it's all.
Yeah. And inflation is that hidden tax. That is literally there to destroy the middle class, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I think you're right about that. Well, and that's Hunger Games. Yeah, that's what. But even they revolted, and I'm hoping we're there. Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
No. Well, you know what? You know what's so sad about that whole beef situation, Jenny, is how the government has let JBS, which is a Brazilian company, literally own almost the entire United States meat industry. I mean, they have blocked. Luckily, hopefully they keep blocking some of the sales of a couple of these large producers in the United States. But what a joke! What a joke!
Again, what happened to antitrust laws?
Yeah.
What happened to those? Do you not remember when they broke up? You're not that much younger than me. Do you not remember when they broke up AT&T?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that was for. And yet we're just completely going, no, we're going to sell this to the government. This is the one time when the government needs to step in. No, you can't own all of this. That's not the way we work here. You can have your share of the market, but you can't own everything. And especially a non-American company. And that's the problem. I just read this the other day. I think it was something you posted, actually, John Boy. And that's, I think, the biggest problem. If they let them get on the American Stock Exchange, I think we're going to have BlackRock all over again, and it's going to be specifically to beef. So if you can't keep a cow in your backyard, you're going to be eating bugs, because that's, when we need, because you won't be able to afford beef. I mean, you can look at it through the window. We'll be like Dickens. Who was the character? It was a book. I read the whole thing, and I can't think about he was a poor little guy, and he got in trouble because he was in the poorhouse, and he came up and he said, "More, please." Okay, I'm not going to remember, and we're not going to wait around for me to remember, because we have no idea how long that will take. All right. Do what?
I said, who was that? Oliver Twist or something?
Oliver Twist. Good for you. Was Oliver Twist. That was a great book, by the way. And Dickens had a twist in Oliver Twist. And I was like, no way, is that really true? It was a great book. I remember listening to that while I was gardening one summer. That's how I got through that one. But it was like little Oliver Twist. More, please. That's kind of what we're being reduced to. Yes, then Julie got it. Oliver Twist. Okay, everybody. Be back here at 1:00. We're going to have that special report on our new board member, Chris Vandenhand. He's supposed to be confirmed by the Senate Education Committee, I believe is who it is, but we'll have more information on that at 1:00, and that's supposed to be tomorrow. And after you've seen the information that has been collected on this man, this is not a person that needs to be sitting on the board of education. He's already on, I think, numerous boards. I know for certain one. So you got one. Be happy. All right. So we'll do that Friday. Do you remember who's on Friday?
Twyla, Real ID.
Twyla and Real ID, 9 a.m. Friday morning. I'm going to put stuff out about this afternoon. I want everybody on. Get everybody that you can to tune in live 9:00 on Friday morning to see Twyla Braze talk about one of the nationally recognized experts on Real ID. And didn't you call me you texted me Saturday morning. What did you tell me?
That my daughter did not have her real ID and she still got on the plane to fly up to Minnesota.
After May 7th. How did that happen?
Yeah. And her passport was expired by 2 years.
I'm wearing this shirt again on Friday.
Jenny, I am upset. She did not stand up for herself and she did go through the body scanner. I figured she wouldn't do that, but she did.
Again, it's that pressure.
She said they just made her go through and she just,
It's that pressure and it's that authoritarian. Yeah. I mean, my kids do the same thing. You're like, I never taught you to do that. So stop doing that. It's going to be we've just gotten too comfortable and we don't want to stand up for anything because we don't want to create a stink and we don't want to be that person. And I'm telling you, you don't want to be that person. You will be that person, and you'll be that person in a cattle car, or not being able to afford food, or not being able to get anywhere you want to go without the government saying, "Pay us, please." I mean, your freedom is dwindling rapidly right now, and Real ID is one of the worst ways that we're doing it. The government is not here to surveil us. We're here to surveil the government. I'm so looking forward to 9 a.m. on Friday morning. Julia asked, when's the school board discussion? I'm tomorrow. Well, they're supposed to be confirming tomorrow. I think it's at 1 p.m. Don't hold me to that, but I can tell you today at 1 o'clock. So in a couple of hours, we'll be back on live with the moms for Liberty and Sherry Conley and Mary from Visit. And we'll talk about all of this then. So be back with us for our breaking news report at 1 p.m. and be with us at 9 a.m. on Friday. And I think I covered everything, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Then we'll see you at 1 and at 9 on Friday. And thanks for being with us. We really enjoyed your time, and see you again soon.